here locally, camping out in protest. That's what dozens of student leaders, K through 12 teachers, and nonprofit members from around the state have been doing in Carson City. We now go live once again. News 4's Mackenzie Warren is standing by. Mackenzie's at the Legislative Building. Lots of tents around there. She's been talking with protesters who've already spent one night in the freezing rain. They're about to make it another. What are they telling you this morning, Mackenzie?
You know, Bill, they're telling me that they're not going to stop here. This is just the first night, so they spent the night freezing rain. We talk about the session heating up, but it is cold, cold, cold this morning, and something a little bit unusual. I've been here many mornings. I've never actually had people to talk to. I've chased down legislators in the hall, but I've never actually woken up an assemblyman, but that's what I did to David Bobsey, and I went and tapped on his tent this morning. No shame at all. This is a pretty visual protest, but we're having some fun here, but this is pretty serious. We know Governor Sandoville vetoed that K-12 budget that did cross some party lines last week. The plan would add $660 million to K-12. David, what's now? What's critical in these final 3 weeks here at the session?
Well, we have to keep having the discussion. We sent that budget across because we thought it was a good compromise. We thought that it was critical to restore some of the resources that the governor's budget had taken away. K-12 education is critical to the state's recovery, and we're going to keep fighting for that message.
So these legislators camping out, sleeping right alongside the protesters. Senator Dennis, obviously you've been overseeing education. What do constituents and people need to know that are really concerned? It's the number one topic that we get emails about in our station, are cuts to higher ed and K through 12.
Well, you know, this isn't something that we're just doing to posture. I mean, what we've looked at is the budget line by line, and we've looked at what's going on in education, and we said this is what needs to happen. And I don't know that everybody realizes how serious the cuts are and how serious this situation is. And so, you know, we just we're going to continue to work to see if we can work together to come to a solution. But what we've put forward is what we think needs to happen.
Senator Horsford, I got to say, you come on this side. You and I were chatting just before this. Senior Advisor Dale Archiaga came out yesterday saying there will not be a special session. At least that's what the governor is telling us. What needs to be done and what needs to be accomplished to avoid that special session? We know Democrats have the majority in both houses, but not enough votes to override that veto.
Well, absolutely. And while the governor's office is preparing for the special session, we're working to try to find the compromise in the next 3 weeks. We've put together a very thoughtful plan on how we could fund education and other vital services in the state. Under the governor's plan, there would actually be a $50 million tax cut to gaming. Mining would pay $9 million less. Tourists would contribute $67 million less than they currently do if we let the governor's plan go forward. So what we're saying is let's come together, let's find that compromise solution. It will be reduced spending from 2 years ago. There will have to be cutbacks, but it shouldn't be cutbacks that affect our children and their future.
Senator Horsford, Senator Dennis, Assemblyman Bobsey, we know you have to go shower up and get ready for Ways and Means. A long day ahead and a long 3 weeks winding down. Now, really, this Camp Sandoville is all about no cuts. They want to find revenue, and the focus of when I've been talking to some of the protesters, it's a fair mining tax, and they're hoping that translates to Governor Sandoville. But, Bill, I have to report, I just spoke with Mary Sarah Kinner. That's the advisor to Governor Sandoville, rather his assistant. And Governor Sandoville is not in Carson. He's traveling. He will not be showing up today, from what I understand, and that's a disappointment of protesters. They were planning on waiting at his parking space when he pulled in just a couple minutes. That's not going to happen. They were at the mansion last night with a candlelight vigil, mourning the loss of education. That's what they say will happen if this budget and this no new tax plan goes through.
Now, what's the plan for the rest of the protest, especially since the governor isn't even there then, Mackenzie?
Right. The plan is to talk to as many lawmakers as they possibly can. A good showing, and they're happy that these politicians and their legislators slept right alongside them in tents. But the protesters are saying that's not enough. And like Senator Horsford was saying, they still need that majority, and that means convincing 5 Republicans to cross that line. And you can bet that Camp Sandoville and all of the campers here are going to be trying to work that. They're going to be shaking hands. They're going to be having the conversation similar to what we saw with that huge protest back in March.
Well, I'm sure that they are glad that was you knocking on their tent, not a bear this morning at 5:30. Thank you for that, Mackenzie.